start today sitting on our butts crisscross. And we'll close our eyes and we'll just focus on our breath for the first little bit here. Inhale through our nose, exhaling from our mouths. Feeling our sitting bones sinking down into the earth and then growing from those sitting bones nice and tall, lengthening in the spine, in the neck, lifting from the top of our head like there's a little string, pulling ever so gently, breathing down deep into our tummies, feeling all around in our torso how we are expanding and being active. Good, and then we'll slowly open our eyes, lift our hands up nice and high, open up those fingers wide, move them around, little air piano here, drop the shoulders away from our ears. Good, and now exhale, let's just take those hands over to the right. We can let that right hand find the floor and we reach up and over with the left hand, pressing our sitting bones down into the mat, lengthening all up into our side body. And inhale, we lift up nice and high. And exhale, over to the other side. Left hand can find the floor. Press that right hip down, stacking the shoulders. Reaching with those fingers. Good, inhaling nice and high again. And then exhale, let's bring it forward for a forward fold. Good, dropping our head, rounding our spine. We'll help ourselves up to the top. Hands come up high. And then again, let's go over to the right. And then inhale up. And exhale to the left. Good, inhale up. And exhale, let's fold forward. Good, rolling our way up. Let's bring those hands back behind us. Pull the shoulders back, lift the heart. Lift the nose. Good. And then slowly coming forward again. Good. Let's walk our hands around to the right, bringing our chest over that right knee. Big breaths. Good. And all the way around, ever so slowly to the left. Good. And then back to the center. One big inhale here, we lengthen in the spine. Exhale, bringing those chests forward and down. Just a little bit more, walking those fingers forward. Good. And then dropping the head, rounding as we slowly roll our way up to a neutral spine. Shoulders are back and down. You feel nice and tall and open. Good. And now we'll just move our head. Chin can come around side to side. We can tilt our head. Just kind of move around in that neck. Oof. Good. And then finding that neutral neck again. We tuck our chin ever so slightly to open up the back of the neck. Good. And then inhale. Let's lift that nose just a little bit. We don't want to collapse in that neck. So we're just lifting and opening in the front of our neck. And then exhale. We'll lower. And inhale. We lift. Exhale. We'll lower. One more time. We'll lift. And exhaling, we lower. And then we find it back at the center. Big inhale, fill those lungs. And then exhale, we're just going to lower our ear over to the right shoulder, dropping the shoulders away so that the ear is still kind of chasing. We don't want to meet it halfway with our shoulder. Really concentrate on our exhales. Let those shoulders relax with our exhale. Our head gets a little bit heavier. Good. And now keeping our head tilted over toward the shoulder, just going to move our nose down in the direction of the floor. Good. And then back to the center. One more breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Our head gets heavy. Good. And then we can even use our hands to help the head come up so we're not like clenching when we bring our head back up to the center. Good. Big inhale here, and then letting the head drop over to the other side. Purposeful breaths. Good. And then slowly rotating our nose down toward the ground. And hopefully we're starting to feel a bit of a release or some length in our neck and top of our shoulder. And then back to the center. And then again, we can use our hand to help that head come back up to the center. Woo. Good. And now inhale, let's lift those hands up high. Big circle with the arms, pulling those shoulders back, opening the chest. And then back around. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, pull those shoulders back, opening up the arms, the chest, breathing into the tummy. Good, and back around. And now we're just gonna start with our right arm. We're first gonna just touch our fingers with our opposite hand and help open up that wrist just a little bit. Slowly and gently first. And then the other way, fingers can point up or down, but we're holding the back of the hand now. Good. And then again, opening up. And then again. And now we're going to start with individual fingers. So starting with our pinky, we're going to milk our hand. So we're going to hold onto that pinky finger. We're going to pull down and slowly, gently pull back. Don't break your finger. Good. And release. Go to the next finger. Pull out and down. And then the next finger. And the next finger. Little pops and crackles. Little ones are okay. It's the big ones that we worry about. Good. Releasing, and then to the thumb. Out, and now open up those fingers as we pull on that thumb. And we can just slide off, wiggle those babies, shake it out. Now we go to the other side. So pinky finger out and down, keeping the other fingers straight and open. And the next finger. Good. And the next out and down. We lengthen and then bring it back. Opening up our fingers nice and wide. Good. One more finger here. Good. And then to the thumb. Good. And releasing, wiggle, shake them out. And now our fingers are 10 miles long. We've got the grips of something really strong and grippy. That went real well. All right, let's bring ourselves onto our hands and our knees. We'll tuck our toes. We'll press back, get those feet a little bit opener. Good. And then coming to our tabletop. Our hands are nice and wide underneath of our shoulders. Our knees are underneath of our hips. And then as we exhale, we'll just round into a cat, lifting our spine up to the sky, tucking our chin, tucking the tail, nice and round. And then inhaling. Just going to do the opposite, dropping that tummy, lifting the heart, lifting the tail. Sway back in that cow. Good. Exhaling cat. And inhaling cow. Moving with our breath. Using the breath to help us lengthen and elongate and deepen those stretches. Inhaling, pressing into those palms, opening up the chest. And again, pressing into those palms to lift our backs up to the sky. Let's do one more cow. And then we find our neutral spine here. Again, hands are underneath of our shoulders, knees are underneath of our hips. And we tuck that tail ever so slightly to keep that low back open. Good. And now inhale, let's bring out that right hand, nice and long. And then we press back with the left foot. And now we turn those left toes so that the hip meets the right hip. It's nice and flat. Breathe into the belly, press with the heel, reach with the fingers, lengthen from the top of the head. Good. And back down to our tabletop. We'll move over to the other side. Left hand comes out, right foot goes back, turning the toes. And breathing all around here. And back down. Good. Other side, right hand, left foot. And down. When we do this and we switch, our back should not change. It should just be our hand and our foot, or our arm and our leg lifting. We're not dropping that tummy. Good. And back to our tabletop. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reach back with that right leg, toes point down, and we'll just put those down to the floor and we'll get the calf. Press back with the heel, get that calf. Good. And then we're going to slowly bring that right foot all the way up to our hands, to the outside of these of our hands here in lizard pose. Pressing into the floor helps activate our shoulders. Nice and strong, looking forward, lengthening from our toes all the way to our nose because it rhymes. Good. And now what I want you to think about is with this left foot in the back, instead of just let it flop back here, I want you to make it active. Press it into the floor. Ooh. And you should feel some pressure come off of the knee on that left side. So if you're on bare ground, it should feel a little bit better on your kneecap. And we should be feeling a little bit more love and activity in that hip too. Good. Exhale, let's come back to our child's pose. Round, take a couple of breaths. Good. And now let's inhale up to our tabletop again. We'll go over to the other side. So left foot goes back. Point those toes back behind us. We'll get the calf first. Press the heel back. As if you're waiting for somebody to say, ready, set, go. Good. And then when we're ready, bringing that foot all the way forward to the outsides of our hands. Our lizard pose, wiggle our way into that little lunge. Nice long spines. We tend to want to always look at our hands, but notice what that does to our back. I am also very guilty of this. As we look forward, everything kind of falls into place. And now bring our focus to that right foot and just press a little bit into the ground. I'm not saying we have to come all the way up. We just are active now in that back foot, which helps our knee, which keeps things nice and active. Good. And back to our child's pose. Good. While we're here, let's bring our elbows down to the mat. We'll turn our palms towards the sky, bring them together, and then bring our hands back behind our head. We want to touch the back of our neck with our thumbs, or you can even touch the back of your thumbs to your neck. Open up those triceps. Good. Releasing those back down to the floor. Let's come up to our tabletop. We're going to do that all again. We're going to bring that right foot forward into our lizard pose. Sinking down, and we'll just add to it. Active foot behind us. Good. And now let's lift up the right hand, and we'll turn to the right, little twisted spine. Pressing into the floor. Opening up, stacking our shoulders. And back down. Good. Again, inhale, lifting high. And now big circle back. And we're going to turn and look behind us. Opening up that right knee. Lowering that left hip. Good. And all the way around. Back down. And now what we're going to do here is with this right foot, we're going to step all the way back like we did with that calf stretch. Our left knee is underneath of our hip. And now what we're going to do is we're going to step across the center line over to the left. And we should be feeling a little bit of love on this outside hip here. Good. And then back to our tabletop. Let's take a cat here, rounding in the spine. And a cow. Good. Back to our neutral spine, and we'll move over to the other side. So left foot comes forward. Find that lunge, lengthen, sink down, press into the floor with both feet, both hands, opening up that chest. Nice long necks. Good. And then inhale, lifting up that left hand. And back down. And now again, inhale, lifting high, and then big circle, opening up that left knee, reaching back behind, and then we'll begin to lower the right hip down. Good, and all the way around to that lunge again, and then step back nice and long, stretch that baby out all the way behind us. And then we'll, again, bring it across like we're trying to step over that right leg. Good. And then back to the center, to our tabletop. Again, let's do a cat, rounding, lifting, tucking, and then a cow, because one goes so well with the other. And then back to that neutral spine, and we'll sink back into our child's pose. Again, we love our child's pose. Always take time to spend in child's pose during our practice. If we need a little break, this is a perfect place for us to go. Or if we just need to take a chill, child's pose is a place to be. Good. Sinking those hips nice and low. Good. Right here, keeping our hips over our heels, let's walk our hands over to one side, reaching across our body, sinking the hips down low, chests are going low, arms are reaching out. Good. And slowly We'll come back to the center. Take one breath here. Inhale. Exhale. Sink down a little bit lower. Crawl those fingers out. And then walking over to the other side. And then back to the center. One more big breath here. And then slowly we'll lift our way up all the way past our tabletop and to our baby plank. We'll just open up the fronts of those hips. Again, press actively into those hands as we lengthen and sink instead of droop those hips. Good. And then slowly we'll lower ourselves all the way down to our tummies. We haven't really done much of a back bend yet, so let's get into that. So hands will stay underneath of our shoulders. We'll pull those babies back. And now let's think about nice activity in our tummies. We're going to bring our chests forward just a little bit. And now instead of pressing into our hands, we're going to use all of these really, really strong muscles to help pull forward and lift. Our hands are there just for stability. But what I don't want us to think about is pressing really hard and then crunching in that low back. Boom. That's why it hurts when we do these types of things. You need to like take off like an airplane, make a big scoop in that low back. So I'm always thinking about pulling my spine forward through the front of my body to open up. Good. And then we can lower down. And we'll do that one more time without all of my jabbering. So inhale, just come forward, shoulders back, big scoop in that low back, breathing into our tummies. Our glutes are working. Good. Exhale, lowering down. Beautiful job. Let's press back to our child's pose. Take a breath or two here. It's always good to do the counter of what we just worked on. Good. Let's inhale back up to that baby plank again. Nice and strong. Tuck the tail, looking forward. Now we're just going to open up those knees a little bit wider. Toes are going to point to the opposite corners of the mat. Good. And now, as we exhale, we'll bring those hips back. Whew. We'll get a little bit different sensation in those hips. Good. Inhale, come forward, tuck the tail, lengthen. And exhale, we can go back. And we can just move forward and back. Think about the difference that we feel when we tuck and spill our pelvis. So maybe we arch our back here. What does that feel like? What does it feel like if we round? Do we get a different sensation when we come forward? If we arch, what does that feel like when we round? Whew, that gets my hip flexors real good. Good. And some days it will be different than others. Just depends on how our body is that day and at that moment in our day. Good. Now we're going to add a degree of difficulty. right? As I come forward, I'm going to lift one foot and like swing it out to one side. Good. And then I'll come back. Good. And then coming forward and out to the side and back. Move with purpose, with the intention of bettering, not injuring. So it is not a contest. We don't win at yoga. Showing up is the win. And the prize is Shavasana. Do one more to each side. Whew. Good. And now we can meet back in a wide-legged child's pose when we are done. No rush. I can stay here all day. Good. And now let's come on up. We'll tuck those toes underneath of us. We'll lift the knees and we'll just kind of pedal into a little bit of like a bear crawl. I don't even think that we need to call it a downward facing dog unless you really want to do one. But we're just giving ourselves some space here. Good. And now let's bring that right leg forward and we'll set ourselves up for pigeon. So our right knee is behind the wrist. Our foot is flexed, and then this left leg reaches back behind, but we don't want the hip to come with it. We're not sitting open this way. We're pulling that left hip forward so that we are even and parallel to our hands. Good. And after a few breaths, here, once we've settled in, if we would like, we can walk our hands forward. What that does is it keeps our spines nice and long as we lower ourselves down. We can go to our elbows. We can come all the way down to the floor and use our hands to support our head. But really continue thinking about those hips and the length in that back leg, our breath. Maybe that next cup of coffee so that we have something happy to think about as well. Let's do 2 more big breaths. Inhale and exhale. Hopefully we're feeling a bit of a release and our body is able to let go. We sink down a little bit lower. And then we'll slowly begin helping ourselves up to the elbows and then to the hands. Very good. And now we're going to sit down onto that right hip. We're going to reach back and we're going to find the left foot and try and pull that back towards our bum. Good. And then we'll gently release that leg and we're going to bring it all the way around into a Janu Shirshasana. So our right foot can find the inside of our left thigh. Our left toes are reaching for the sky. Good. From here, hands can go to our thigh. We're going to bring our chest all the way down toward this big toe. One more big inhale here. We lengthen in that spine. Stay for the exhale as we deepen into that fold just a little bit more. And then we can release the head, round, and help ourselves up to seated. Hands will find the floor. We'll swing both of our legs all the way around to our tummies. Hands underneath of our shoulders. And now we can do our baby cobra. If we would like, we can press a little bit further and open ourselves up for a full cobra or upward facing dog, your choice. Good. And then lower down. Let's press back into like our pseudo downward dog. Wiggle it out. Give ourselves some space. Then we'll move over to the left side. So left knee comes forward, finds its spot behind the wrist. We flex the foot, and then we begin to walk that right foot back behind us, pulling the hip forward, and the foot goes back, so it's really lengthening. Pull this left hip back, right hip comes forward. Breathe a few times here, find our spot. And we can settle into any version of this pose that we would like. Coming down to our elbows. We're all the way down to our chests. Do a couple more breaths here. Nice big long inhales, equally long exhales. And then when you're ready, we'll slowly begin to rise. First up to the elbows, then to the hands. Whew. And now we get to sit down on that left hip. We'll reach back and we'll find that right foot. Pull that buddy in towards us. And then we'll gently release that baby down. Bring it on forward into our Janu Shirshasana. One-legged fold. Good. Lengthen in that spine, and then exhale. We'll just slowly lower our way down. Now again, if having a straight leg is really tough for us, we can bend that knee. But what we're looking for is the attachment of our tummy to our thigh. We can hug it, or we can start with the toes and then just slowly lengthen in that leg, keeping that tummy toward the thigh as we open. And maybe this is where we get, we're gonna get a hamstring stretch if we're tight. This will work, it's okay. And then as we breathe, maybe we can lengthen just a little bit more. One more breath, we can do it. Lengthen. Stay for the exhale, nice and long. Sink down low. Good. Release the head. Round in the spine. Coming on up. Good. Hands find the floor out in front of us, and we'll swing those legs all the way back behind us. Give ourselves a wiggle. We can just kind of wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then we're going to increase that wiggle here with our arms out into like goalpost arms or cactus arms. What we're going to do is we can rest our head on the floor, and we're just going to bend our right knee like we want to kick ourselves in the bum, and then reach back all the way behind us. Trying to keep those shoulders on the floor. They'll lift a little bit, that's okay. Good, and then slowly we unwind. We keep that knee bended, and then we're just gonna bring it up here by our hip. Good, and then gently we can just extend that leg behind us, and we'll move over to the other side, back to our goalpost arms, rest our head, and now bending that left knee, bringing the foot back behind us. Reaching with those feet. And then gently we'll unwind. Keep that knee bent, and we'll slide it up out to the side, even with our hip in a modified frog. Again, we can place our hands underneath of our foreheads if we like, or we can keep the goalpost arms if this feels good. And just allow our body to feel the support of our mats of the ground. so that it knows that it's not going to fall, doesn't have to do any balancing or be strong in any way, so it can just release and allow that hip to open up just a little bit further. Good. And then slowly we'll straighten that buddy, wiggle it out. Good. And then when we're here, we can just roll over onto our back. Bend the knees, bringing them into our chest. Roll up into our little ball. Good. And now let's hold on to that right shin nice and tight. Lengthening the left all the way up to the sky, actively pressing that heel up and away as we slowly lower that buddy all the way down to the mat. Lengthening all along this hip as we pull the right knee in. Relax our head and shoulders. Good. And then from here, we'll release and we'll guide that right knee across our body for another little twist here. Do one more big breath here. And then exhale, we'll come back to the center, both knees find our little egg, round, nice and tight up into our little ball. And then we'll go over to the other side. So arms come to the left leg, right leg reaches nice and strong up to the sky, and then all the way down to the ground. Continuing that activity. Once it finds the ground, we should feel our tummy pressing into this left thigh as we breathe. And now let's release that and guide the knee across our body. Deep, deep breath. Allow that body to deepen into the twist a little bit further. Good. And then gently we'll unwind. Find our egg one last time. Big breath here. And then both our hands and our feet reach up to the sky. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. Move around in the ankles and the wrists for popcornasana. And then slowly we'll release down to the mat. Make ourselves nice and long here. And exhaling into our Shavasana, finding a posture that is comfortable, that we feel that we can stay still for a few minutes as we just allow our bodies to relax, to restore itself. Please give yourself enough time in Shavasana so that you have the ability to let your mind wander, to relax. Sometimes it takes us a little bit longer. But if you are ready, we will wiggle our fingers and our toes. We'll slowly come back into our space. We'll listen to our body and give it what it needs right now. A little stretch or a twist. And then when it's time, we'll roll over onto our side. We'll help ourselves up to seated. take this time to check in with how we're feeling right now. And then we lift our hands as we inhale, bringing them together and exhaling them down to our hearts with gratitude, giving thanks to us for the gifts that we gave ourselves just now. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning, for allowing me to help you through your practice, for allowing me to see your little faces, tiny little faces on the screen. I wish you a very, very happy rest of your day, a great week coming up. The light and the divine in me recognizes and respects the light and the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.